good to see you here. Congratulations on your award as an outstanding UWI graduate. What does this award mean?
Well, first of all, I'm humbled by the award. I think the award is a recognition for UE itself and what it does for the region. The award points to the fact that UE has created leaders, has created regional citizens that would have excelled, that can contribute greatly to regional development. And I think we have not valued enough what UE has created for our region. So I'm very humbled about this award, and I think that the education I received from the University of West Indies has helped me and continue to shape my thinking process. And one thing about studying in the University of West Indies, we learn about our own environment. We learn about our own challenges and circumstances. So I believe that these awards are essential in showcasing the product of the University of West Indies, and also to help us to live life that can lead to good example of what we can do in the region and how we can all use what we have been blessed with, in this case, education from UE, for the betterment and upliftment of the region.
Yeah. To the issues that cause you to wake up early in the morning now, do you think the questions about Guyana's capacity to manage the wealth that it is now realizing, that those questions are steeped in a colonial perspective of how non-whites are able to look after their own affairs?
I don't think it's only steeped in a colonial perspective. I think it's steeped in the psyche of many in the developed world. And it's not only for Guyana. In the developing world, many of the leaders believe, and many of the international systems are designed to believe, that we in the developing world are incapable. We lack this sophistication.
We're dunce.
We don't have the ability.
Yes.
We don't have capacity and capability. But what we don't have is, what we did not have was the opportunity to build that capacity and capability, because it was taken away from us.
Yes.
Because we were denied it.
Yes.
And now we have the opportunity to build that capacity and capability. We should not allow it to happen again. We should not allow a different form of colonization to our thinking process. So I believe that, and I've said this before, that this is for us to change. This is a perception for us to change. And we must change it with strong management, good governance, and demonstrating through results that we have the capability and we have the ability to manage our resources and to do what is best for our citizens. And that is exactly how we are approaching this.
When you won your election and came into office in 2020, you took charge of a country that, to be fair, was not really ready for what COVID brought. So from that point, taking a country in COVID times to this point, what are the important milestones that your administration has checked off on that journey?
Well, one of the good things that we did coming into government was develop a manifesto based on consultation with the people.
Yes.
So in developing that manifesto, we were reflecting the priorities of the people, what they wanted to see. So coming into government, we knew that we had to implement the priorities of the people. But you're so correct. We came at a time, we were bang into COVID, with no infrastructure to deal with COVID. We had a COVID hospital with no oxygen inside. That was how bad it was, not a single bed. So we had to invest. In 2 weeks, we built a hospital, completely built a hospital with oxygen, with beds, with all the facilities, with intensive care, and all of that. And then what we did was to focus on the things that matter. How do we get back people to work? How do we remove the burdensome taxes that was placed on people? How do we build out social infrastructure, build out our education system, healthcare system? And we adopted a philosophy, a poor approach to growth and development, reducing inequality, focusing on social services, building productivity, increasing and investing in labor, upskilling people. And whilst we do that, focus on building the private sector, expanding the private sector, and allowing the private sector to grow. So all of that has had to happen at a time when we were addressing COVID, and then we had two huge floods during that period. So it was managing priority. It took a lot of hours, continued to take a lot of hours, But I would say that we have weathered the storm to a large extent. We have built an economy that has been the fastest growing economy for the last 3 years globally. We are now looking at how we can integrate and create a wider platform for the economy, looking at ecotourism, tourism generally, developing sporting product, and let me just maybe divert our attention a bit. We're talking here about food security and UV and all of these things. How have we utilized the sporting talent in this region? Sportsmax, I sent them a proposal recently in which I wanted us to use people like Usain Bolt to come on board with leaders and let us launch a program to end poverty so that we can have these international stars building infrastructure, building programs, and helping to solve big problems in the region like food insecurity, ending hunger. Can you imagine if we can get all our regional superstars to come together on one platform to end hunger in the region among children? We can do that in a year. So how do we ensure that we can mobilize a human capital in the region? You mentioned about our capacity to manage and how people think that we are less sophisticated than them. In a region with less than 17 million people, we have achieved 4 Nobel laureates. 4 Nobel laureates in a region of less than 17 million. That tells you about our capacity and capability. So I think the time has come for us not to look at the problems of the region from a country perspective, but for us to look at the region as a region and harness the full potential of the region and building out what we are good in. So I was saying to a few leaders recently that, listen, where is the world going today? Every single country in the Middle East wants to create the entertainment capital of the world, the sporting capital of the world. There is no other region that has a natural capability of creating the entertainment capital of the region and the sporting capital of the region than us. But we can't do it alone. So we have to come together. Jamaica, the World Reggaeton Festival. Trinidad, the World Soca Festival. Ecotourism Festival. Guyana, Adventure Tourism. And the World Athletic Championship. Right? So how do we use our natural asset to create a global brand and build that global brand for regional prosperity?
On that point, you in your country have the situation where over successive administrations, in my view, the indigenous Guyanese have not been given a fair deal. Under your administration, what have you done to bring equity into how the resources of the country are divided so that the indigenous Guyanese get their due reward?
Under our party, whenever we're in government, the indigenous people, there's specific focus on the indigenous people. And I know where you're coming from. Because between 2015 and 2020, more than 2,200 young indigenous people lost their jobs. They were sent home. We have not only brought back those jobs, but we've expanded it. Under the low carbon development strategy, the money we earn from the carbon credit sale, 15% of that directly goes to the indigenous people. And they decide how they want to utilize it. Nowhere else in the world this happened. The indigenous people ownership of land, highest per capita than anywhere else in the world under our administration. And then if you look, and this is separate and apart from what we give for normal development. We have moved, for example, the PPP civic government has moved education. There was less than 2% of indigenous people had access to secondary education. By the time we get up to 2026, 100% of indigenous children will have access to secondary education.
From 2 to 100?
You're looking at a situation where we'll have 100% access to primary education, 100% access to secondary education, investing in technology to give them full access to university education, becoming trained teachers, building out their livelihood. We have launched a program, and this is on a successive PPC administration, where we give them free textbook, school feeding program, breakfast program, school kitchen. We support women development, women empowerment. We're now working with the Cubans to have honey production, moving towards more technologically driven agriculture production. These are the things that we're doing. You see, the approach we're taking to development is a pro-poor approach, which means that the inequality gap is what drives targeted investment.
Yes.
So it's not, so you have specific investment that is targeted for a specific group based on the need, based on the disparity, based on the level of inequality. So those are some of the things that we're doing.
Bear with me, just three more issues and then we'll let you go. The third to last one is this. When you consider that Guyana is at the forefront of so much that is positive about the Caribbean. And of course, you mentioned the fact that you're the fastest growing developing country in the world, perhaps the fastest growing nation in the world. How is it that you manage to husband the resources in such a way that Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, that natural dichotomy, that natural almost antagonism that some politicians would want to have ferment between both groups and to have them as two distinct groups. How do you, in this rich Guyana, bring those two together?
That's a brilliant question. First of all, I don't see Indo-Guyanese and Afro-Guyanese. I see Guyanese. That's the first thing. It's philosophically. What do you see? My government see one Guyana. So when we give old age pension, it is to every Guyanese. When we give a check every year for dialysis treatment, it's to every Guyanese. When we give a voucher for women to test for cervical cancer, it's for every Guyanese. When we give the Because We Care grant to children, it's for every child. When we give the school uniform voucher, it is for every child. When we give, and if you look at the public sector, look at the army. One may say, how do you have a country that is so diverse in people and you have more than 90% of the army are Afro-Guyanese? More than 90% of the police is Afro-Guyanese. The healthcare system, the public service system itself is 75%.
Yes.
But that does not bother me.
Yes.
Because we are Guyanese. Because at the end of the day, we are working towards the upliftment of Guyana. You rightfully said, though, there are certain people who use this old trick that was brought upon us, that divided us in 1950. It was one party, the People's Progressive Party.
Yes.
It was the outside forces that divided us then because they saw an opportunity to divide the people based on ethnicity for their own purpose, so that they could have remained relevant and had a control. One prime minister continued to be on the CIA payroll even after he was prime minister. That tells you the story. That tells you the story.
Yes.
So we don't see it philosophically and ideologically. I don't see it from different lenses.
Yes.
One lens,
Yes.
one Guyana.
Yeah. Your political opponents at home, and I noticed when the journalists from the developed country interview you, they take the same line. Everybody tells us that the Exxon Mobile deal was a bad deal. Was it really a bad deal, Mr. President? And what can you do about it if it's that bad a deal?
So the truth is, we have said that it was not the best deal for Guyana. The last government signed the deal. But what do you do? What do you do? You have already signed it.
You have contracts.
You have contracts.
Yes.
You have sanctity of contracts. You either go and get locked in a court system, no investors will come back after that, or you recognize the problem, you try to make the best out of the situation, what we did, we said no other deal, no other production sharing agreement would ever have these same things. These same, and that is exactly what we did. There is now a new production sharing agreement, PSA. We have now upgraded all the laws, but we have to now just manage that contract and extract maximum what we can extract from it.
Hear you on that. As chairman of CARICOM, the Haiti Transitional Council has been named, but there's still a far way to go before that is up and working. Before your time ends as CARICOM chairman, what do you desire to see insofar as moving Haiti closer to the point where the country can take charge of its own security?
Very important question, and this calls for collective leadership. And I'm so proud of my colleagues in CARICOM. You know, Jamaica, Bahamas, Barbados, Ralph, Skerrit, we have all been working. I've spent, from the last heads meeting to now, almost 3 hours on an average on Haiti every day. Because we have to solve it. We're at the stage now where we have the names of the Presidential Council.
Yes.
We are hoping now that we can move towards the appointment of a Prime Minister, and then having the Presidential Council move very quickly to have the MSS into the country. Because that was one of the commitments.
Yes.
Because we believe the MSS is very important,
Yes.
so that a level of security and stability can return, so that we can move towards all the important steps towards an election.
And with CARICOM playing a role in that as well.
I believe we have to.
Yes.
I believe that we have to, this has to be Haitian-led,
Yes.
but we have to continue to offer support, offer solidarity, and offer, and I think the EPG, the Eminent Person Group, who I want to commend also,
Yes.
that group must continue at least until we see Haiti. We have to see them through to an election that would be credible.
Yes. The issue of free movement within CARICOM, which was promised to us to take effect by March this year, the timeline is not aligning. Is it still going to happen in 2024?
Has to happen. I think that we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. We are working on it. We had 3 meetings at this intersessional coming up. That would be the primary focus, and we have to get ahead with it.
And lastly, Venezuela says they don't recognize the jurisdiction of the ICJ yet. A couple of weeks ago, they were sending lorries of documents to the ICJ to back their claim. For those, let me ask you the question this way. For those Guyanese outside Guyana who are looking on and wondering, how far is my government willing to go to defend what is rightfully ours? I put that question to you.
First of all, we want a peaceful solution to this. We believe that the region must be a region of peace and stability. We are following international law and the rule of law. Venezuela has participated in all the ICJ cases so far, and they were not successful on the jurisdictional issue. We know our case. We know where our borders are. But listen, we would ensure, as a government and as a people, that we do all that is required to secure what belongs to Guyana. We don't want anything that does not belong to Guyana. But our first line of defense has always been diplomacy, the rule of law, and ensuring a stable and peaceful environment.
Mr. President, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Good.